is happening, everybody? A little bit of a different look. I thought I'd try something new. So if you're seeing this, then it either worked out or kind of worked out. What's up, guys? It's D Booma, the digital samurai for truth. I thought I'd do digital samurai news. See if that comes through in the audio. But anyways, I'm outdoors a little bit today, and I wanted to get in the sun, and I figured, why not try something different? So we're doing this on Zoom, but on the mobile. So this is the first time I've ever done this, so hopefully it comes out okay. But I wanted to get into, so a lot of stuff's been getting shared on X, and apparently it's not even a hidden thing. But Shawn Ryan was a South American drug trafficker? What? So I want to get into that, and then obviously I wanted to talk a little bit before we get right into that nitty-gritty about, doing the work with juxtaposition and all that. Overall, positive and great reviews. People are excited to hear something a little bit different. Some people were trying to say, that he's popping into this like brand new and with all this new information. He's been doing this for like 3 years, maybe a little over 3 years. And he's done a lot of work with Sabrina Wallace. So if you go to check him out, especially check out his Substack, I think is his main page where he wants people to go. But you'll see work that he's done with Sabrina Wallace. So it's like it's nothing new. But as far as like him being in the movement or not even in the movement, I don't think he, really, he gets on Stupiders and Dr. Jane Ruby, who's not a real doctor. And he goes on about how she's Rubenstein and who she really is and breaks that kind of stuff down. But as far as being in the movement with the guys like Scott McKay and Jaco, I don't even know if he knows who they are or if he's ever even really heard of Gene Decode and some of the fools that more of us have been acquainted with, unfortunately. And then the Wano Savins. I just think that juxtaposition has a unique experience coming from banking to see how the hierarchy or the structure of banking, where does it go? Like there's a hierarchy in pretty much everything in this freaking world, but the hierarchy of banking goes all the way up to the Swiss Bank Authority. And so he's breaking down areas of like Geneva, Switzerland, Basel, Switzerland, gorgeous areas. Crypto coming from Zug, Switzerland. It's just wild. And I think it's new because a lot of people have heard this, and maybe there's a reason for that. It's like we don't really hear from a lot of military experts when it comes to the devolution and the cog and all that kind of stuff. I think that's all by design. The gentleman that I had been in a little bit of contact with, there's two of them, but the one that was working on that For the People website that I was doing work for, he had been doing it for years and tried to get on some shows to talk about this because he was so disgusted by the John Harolds and the Derek Johnsons and the garbage that they're putting out there that has no truth to it as far as what's really going on in the world. And they wouldn't allow him on. So it's like these people can't find platforms, and they've maybe been doing it on a smaller scale. As juxtaposition says, large sandbox versus small sandbox. We're in the small sandbox. So the frauds are never going to have them on their show. They're going to refuse them, and they're not going to bring on anybody that's going to debunk a lot of the fairy tales, the devolutions, the COG, the Trump CIC, those kind of things. They're not going to bring on people like that gentleman that was doing For the People website. And I asked him if he wanted to come on, and he is at the point now where he's just like, everyone on the internet is a liar. I don't want anything to do with it. And he wouldn't even come on because he's so disgusted by what he sees with the disinformation and the misinformation being spread. So now you have a banking expert in juxtaposition who made a career out of auditing and banking. He would know a thing or two about how the banking system works, you would think. So anyways, I want to lean on him, but you ain't going to find him on many shows or any shows with a lot of the 98, 99% COINTELPRO handled grifting, lying scumbags on the internet. That's what we have. So you probably haven't heard of them, but if you were paying attention to the Sabrina Wallace stuff and researching it, you would probably end up finding someone like Juxtaposition. So anyways, he's been out there, and it's a rough message, but at the same time, I think a lot of us have been conditioned to believe in these fairy tales or happy endings. 98% of the movies that we watch, the good guys win. And we've been conditioned to believe that that's the way it's going to work. And so it's maybe a little bit tougher of a message to hear that we are at war. I think I'm recording this right now over 5G. And he's like, there is no 5G. There is no 5G. It's 6G, 7G mesh, net-centric warfare going on right now. And I kept forgetting to address it, but back behind my head, up in the sky, you can see a chemtrail that is broken up over time. When I woke up this morning, there were lines in the sky, chemtrails everywhere. And that's the war that we are in. And if people can start paying attention to that, we can start having more of these conversations that make more sense, because you're not getting that from any of the truthers. You're just not. And if they addressed it in the past, when I was with Gene Decode, he tried to make you believe that the chemtrails were now being put out there by the good guys. And there's no proof of that. So we are at war. And I think I said it on my coffee shop talk for those that are on the Substack. It's something that if they got the older generations out of the way, and then even our generations, as far as the people that are closer to mine, where I'm 43, they get our generations out of the way, and then they have full control. So who knows how long this is going to go? But as Juxtaposition puts it, we are at war. We are in a war. So it's another way to think about it, and coming from a banking specialist, I would say, that did a lot of auditing and work in the banking industry to see the hierarchy, where it went and how high it really goes, and it goes to Swiss Bank Authority. Well, so Swiss Bank Authority is the area where the banking is at the peak of the hierarchy. It makes sense as these countries that owe debt and bend the knee to who? It goes all the way up to Swiss Bank Authority. So it's things to take into consideration as we learn this kind of stuff. And I just ask you guys to do a little bit maybe more research on Juxtaposition and realize he's been doing this for a while. We're just playing just like me in small sandboxes, and a lot of people will are listening to this information. And there's a reason for that. They don't want you to find this information. So if you found Juxtaposition through the interviews that I've been doing with him, I think that's great. And as I always say on this channel, you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with anything that's presented on my channel. Everybody should be a free thinker and think for themselves. But some of the stuff that's being said, I think, is you just do a little research and see that he's been doing this for a while now. He's not popping up. He's not jumping in at this time like a Derek Johnson did in the Truther movement, or a Jan Hamburger Helper Hayes. He's not jumping in like that. It's not like that. He's been doing it for a while. It's just that no one's going to have him on, or have no one has Sabrina Wallace on. I think Sabrina Wallace is only comfortable with doing interviews with Juxtaposition, because we've just found nothing but liars, schemers, and people that are doing it for the wrong reasons. And as Juxtaposition would say, COINTELPRO operatives. So anyways, I wanted to say that. I think there was some more things I had to say, but maybe it'll come out as we do this presentation. It's nice having the sun hit me. I know it's a little bit of shadow in the eyes, so that's kind of messing up the video feed a little bit. We're doing this vertical, so it's going to look different on the screen. So we'll see what happens. If you guys end up watching this and seeing it, then we made it work. So we want to share screen. I want to get into the Shawn Ryan stuff. There was one other thing I think I had to say, but I cannot remember. This is all brand new. Everything on your screen, including notifications, will be recorded. Okay. We're going to broadcast. Bear with me, everyone. As I'm trying to share screen now. It's nice listening to the birds out here, I'll tell you that. It's probably getting canceled out by the noise cancellation. All right, so I think we're sharing screen. I want to come into X, where I've got this stuff bookmarked. And I just, some people that are on X have probably seen this. Amazing Paulie's been chiming in on this situation with Shawn Ryan. There's been a bunch of people that have been talking and saying stuff, but this Ben Avery, I don't know who he is necessarily, but he's the one that's been coming in and saying a lot of the stuff where I'm just like, what? But then Amazing Paulie's been chiming in, so let's get into this. So your name isn't Shawn Ryan, and he's replying to one of Shawn Ryan's posts on X. I don't think the post matters that much, but it's Sean Palmisano. You went from the Navy SEALs to CIA security contracting to running a drug trafficking ring in South America. You've killed countless people and ruined lives and families. You yourself became addicted to drugs, alcohol, pills, and overdosed more than once. You haven't accounted for all the money you made climbing your way to being a kingpin trafficking drugs nor clarified if you were working undercover. You are a demon. Get your posturing in now before you're tortured in hell for 1,000 years. Like, that was intense. And I was just like, what? When I shared it. And then Amazing Polly came in and she started sharing some more stuff. And then I did a little bit of research and I found where Shawn Ryan talks about this in an interview he did with Megyn Kelly, which I'll splice in a little bit of that once I get to the editing part of this video. But the fact that he was with the Navy SEALs, okay, there's that. But then he worked for CIA security contracting. Now, Amazing Polly has connected him to Blackwater, which is Eric Prince. And so anyways, I'll have it on the screen here, but this is a little, this is like the commentary in the transcript of what I'm going to share here in a moment. I'm going to take some pieces from this interview that he did with Megyn Kelly, where he literally talks about this stuff. So let's get into a little bit more that I have shared here in the, it'll be, there you go, all my bookmarks. Amazing Polly came in here and said it's true. So that's responding to that Ben Avery post. He told it to Megyn Kelly, and we're going to get into that interview. Also, he's former Blackwater, so he's an Eric Prince promoted entity. And then I asked about there being an actual video and all that kind of stuff, and then I found it. And then thank you to Patrick Mockridge for sharing it with me, some information that went further. But anyways, Amazing Polly chiming in here and saying, Shawn Ryan set up a drug trafficking ring in South America after working with Blackwater and the CIA. So here she has, this is from an article. I can post the full article down below for anybody that wants to listen to it or read it. What they're trying to do, as you see on the top there, it says God reports. And so they're trying to use his story of doing all this stuff and being a part of this overdosing and running a drug trafficking ring in South America. They're trying to make it sound like he made amazing reversal when Jesus Christ entered his life. I think that he ended that, came clean with his parents, allegedly. This is the story, because I think if you listen to the Gray Area Monarch material, according to Gray, he gets the helmet, meaning he is under severe mind control. And then I cannot remember the name of the hospital or the institution that Shawn Ryan goes to, and that's where they get reprogrammed. And one of the gentlemen that was in contact with Gray Area Monarch told Gray all about that situation. So I've covered that in the past. Let's get into this, what this says in this article. It says, starting from the top, after 4 months in Iraq, Shawn retired from the SEALs. He became a Blackwater contractor and then a CIA contractor. So this is literally in the God reports where they're telling his testimony. So he's literally connected. And you can read the rest there on the screen. We'll move forward, but this is where we're getting some of this information as it's coming out. And I was just kind of shocked. I was shocked. And they were saying, so you're telling me that Shawn Ryan is also possibly a Fed? And then Amazing Polly chimed in and said, it doesn't matter if Shawn Ryan is a Fed or not. He's former Blackwater, which is Eric Prince. Eric Prince pulls the strings on much of the narrative network. Now, remember that. Like, when it comes to this Blackwater, the wellness company, the ties, I think it was a gentleman named David Lopez tied to Blackwater and Eric Prince through the wellness company with that Foster Coulson, who is the CEO of the wellness company. And the wellness company has now, like I showed in a previous video when I was highlighting stuff that Amazing Polly continues to do, it has gone mainstream to where it's ended up on even Fox, the wellness company that is. So the wellness company is expanding rapidly, and that is connected to Eric Prince, among the other things that Eric Prince is connected to. But anyways, he has a gigantic set of ambitions and plays in the global sandbox. We're talking about small sandboxes versus big sandboxes. Shawn Ryan is making the transition from a smaller, he's been pretty big for a while, but I mean, you're talking, he's going more mainstream. As far as a podcaster goes and what he pulls for numbers, he does more than mainstream media, I would say at this point. But for Prince, the U.S. is just another chess piece. So this is just crazy. And let's see if I can figure out how to stop share here and get back to you guys. Stop share, and here I am. All right, so we went through all that. So he's connected to the SEALs, and then stop due to you have stopped screen sharing. Hold on, pause. All right, I think it's just a little notification popped up. Anyways, so he's connected to the CIA, but he's also connected to Blackwater, Eric Prince. He's growing from the smaller sandbox, like a large small sandbox, into the mainstream podcasting world. And so he did this, and then all of this is like out there, and it's just coming to light. I don't know about the thing that Ben Avery shared, where it's not even his actual last name. Like, they literally changed his name to Shawn Ryan. Maybe that was more appealing as like a stage name, like they do with all these guys. Gray Area Monarch claiming that Shawn Ryan is under the helmet, so an extreme form of brainwashing and being a tool for them to utilize in whatever, nefarious things they want to do. I mean, most of it's manipulation, gaslighting, and then the stuff that I covered in the past, where he covered the Cybertruck stuff and all that bullcrap conspiracy that was coming out then, where it was a bunch of fear porn. We are in a war, and this is another piece of that, showing us how they are maneuvering, if you will, the chess pieces. As Amazing Paulie was saying, Eric Prince, this is just another chess piece, chess board piece, move, whatever you want to say, of getting Shawn Ryan to even a larger audience and growing and expanding on something that he, as I've seen in the comments and some of the people saying, has he really ever atoned for what he did? The people that he could have killed and the things that happened in South America. We're going to check out the interviews and some pieces from that. I'll show you in this, and I'll link to the full thing down below. But let's go ahead and check out where he talks about his testimony here on Megyn Kelly, like 9 months ago, I believe it is. Let's check it out.
This was not a good period in your life.
You know about this?
Nothing good happens in Colombia.
No, nothing good does happen in Colombia.
No, I do know a little bit about your troubles. And that was a rough period for you. Explain why, and why Colombia.
Well, originally I went to Colombia because when I joined the SEAL teams, I had always wanted to go to Team 4 because I wanted to do the counter-drug ops. Well, then, 9/11 kicked off, obviously, and that wasn't a focus at all. And so when I was in the agency, I'd broken up with a girlfriend, and so I decided I wanted to travel, and I was just infatuated. I mean, those were all the documentaries I was watching when I went to the recruiter. That was the only thing going on at the time, was Panama and kind of the counter-drug situation down in South America, which a lot of that was in Colombia.
Since documented in shows like Narcos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I decided I wanted to go check it out down there. And so I
mean, that's crazy talk. Just like as a pin in this that's crazy talk. Nobody looks at a show like Narcos or Panama and says, yes, I want to go there. That's all normal people are like, thank God that's down there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was for a number. I wanted to see, I wanted to be in a jungle environment. And so I went to check it out, had a great time. And so I just kept going back, all the way past my time at the agency. But then it turned into, we had just kind of spoken about addiction to adrenaline. And so I was going down there doing a lot of stuff that I shouldn't be doing, cocaine. And then once I left the agency, I kind of started building a network down there. And it was exciting to me. I was in overseas, building my own network, kind of felt like I was kind of running my own operations.
What kind of operations?
Drug networks. And so I wanted to see how deep into the kind of narcos network I could get myself. But
this was not for crime fighting.
No, this was
for crime committing.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And so I kind of started at street level and built a network out and went to clubs and met people and found my guys and started testing cocaine and finding the best stuff and I found it. And that lasted for a couple years, and I would just bounce. I mean, it was really, I got a lot of satisfaction out of the adrenaline and just seeing how much I could embed myself into these different cultures. And so then I started flying all over South America. I started going to Peru and starting to build network there in Dominican Republic and Panama, all over Colombia, all over the country, and Costa Rica. And then I started looking up the most dangerous places you could go in the world. And at the time it was San Pedro Sula, Honduras. So I went there and started, I didn't get very far there, but that was my life for several years.
Wow. And the product was cocaine, and you would find what, like, would be dealers, people to distribute it?
I would find dealers,
make it.
and then I would find their dealers, and then I would find where their dealers get their stuff, and I got to a pretty high level.
It's a miracle you weren't killed.
It is a miracle. It was, this is what I do for a living, though, and so
That's true. You had some pretty superior training.
I was pretty good at it and pretty fearless at the time.
So when you're talking to your old Navy SEAL buds or Blackwater buds, and you're down there, and they're saying, "What are you up to?" What were you saying?
I would just tell them.
I've crossed over to the other side.
I wouldn't tell them exactly what I'm doing, but they knew. Everybody kind of knew, it just, I started losing friends. I know the conversations were like, oh yeah, he's down in Colombia and nobody really hears from him anymore. And I would resurface every once in a while. Sometimes guys would come down to see me. They wouldn't last very long. They would head back out immediately. And it got to be very dark. And, I OD'd down there a couple of times. And I remember one time I woke up and it was Mother's Day. And I remember calling my mom, and I was all junked out. And I remember after that conversation that it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I knew I needed to pull myself out of that. And it kind of like went right back to the time when, I told you the only reason I made it through Buds was I didn't want to let my parents down. And I sure as hell didn't want my parents to get a notice weeks later that their son had OD'd on cocaine in a penthouse in Colombia. And who knows how long that would take to even get to them. And so it had painted this picture in my head. And I started seeking help, kind of.
It's a big moment.
Yeah.
This is the part of the testimony that I really relate to, having come from addiction and been in a lot of recovery settings. When he says he's going to try to get help, that's kind of how it is. You kind of recognize you have a problem, but if you aren't doing it for yourself, as much as you have a loved one or your family members and stuff like that, those help. But it's up to you to do it for yourself. And so it's a messy thing. I was considered a chronic relapser in my own recovery. I kept getting a little bit of sobriety, relapsing. But what he's saying here does make sense. Now, was he contracted during that time? Was he actually connected to an agency? Maybe he wasn't even aware because of how much they handle him. I don't know. Or did he go through that, come out of it, and then get handled? Some of these things are the questions that I still have, but that does seem like an authentic testimony in the sense of what he is saying lines up with the way that I felt about trying to get help, kind of getting help. I was kind of ready because as an addict, you're ready to you just want to like throw yourself into the wind. You don't know if you can handle the world in a sober mind, and it's a battle. So I do sympathize with Shawn Ryan in this case. There's just a lot more questions that we're about ready to get into, and Megan Kelly is about ready to bring him back into, instead of going more into the God testimony and how he got his faith, which is in that article that I'll link to down below if you're interested in that. She goes right back into the mindset of going into, like the drug trafficking rings in Colombia. So let's finish this segment out and then listen specifically to a couple things that he does say in this that I'll catch you on the other side of it to discuss.
before you begin that path to redemption,
Yeah.
what got you there? What made you establish residency in Colombia and go all over these countries, the most dangerous countries on earth, to mess with other people's drug rings? My God, right? It's
Yeah.
like playing with plutonium for a living.
Yeah.
And be so reckless with your life and your well-being.
You know, I just didn't value life anymore. I didn't care. I mean, I had expected to die down there, and then when I got close, I realized there's a lot more to life than this, and so I cleaned it up. And truth be told, I mean, that was kind of an awakening, but I wasn't 100% ready to shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had built quite the network down there, and I got tipped off that the federal police in Colombia were surveilling me
Sure.
and people that I was with, and so I E&E'd out of the country.
What's E&E'd?
I mean, I abruptly left, and I did kind of a we call them an SDR, but surveillance detection route, and I wanted to see if they were surveilling me if I was walking around town, and so I got rid of everything, cleaned everything up.
So this isn't just like an apartment complex where you just flush your shit or throw it out and get out of there. To get rid of everything and clean everything up on a scale that he's talking about, with this massive networking that he did and the size of the drug ring that he got and all that many places that he networked, you would have to have big help to help you get out of that, because the people below you aren't just going to want to get out because you want to get out. And then the people that are receiving his drugs aren't just going to want to be cut off. You don't just get out clean like that. He had to have had massive help there, I would think. I don't see any other way around that.
And went to an internet cafe, booked myself some tickets to a couple different places, jumped on one, and left the country.
Came
never
back stateside?
Yeah.
Do we extradite to Colombia? Just asking for a friend.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I got out of there and went home to Missouri, talked to my parents. They knew
You told
something
him?
was really
Told him
wrong.
everything?
Yeah, I don't remember telling them anything. And woke up the next day after telling them with a hangover, and my dad was, I could just tell by the look on his face that I must have spilled probably just about everything.
What did the look say?
Very concerned
Yeah.
and worried.
So there you go. And he's talking about E&E, and I'm pretty sure that's escape and evade. He got out of there. And Megyn Kelly's saying, is there extradition to Colombia? And then they just kind of chuckle and whatnot. And but seriously, is he allowed in South America? Would they connect him to larger drug rings that he was a part of, and the crimes that he could have committed while over there? Was he contracted with the CIA? These are questions that people have. Would Shawn Ryan need ongoing protection? He knows so much about the drug trafficking rings down in South America now. You don't just leave. It's like you just don't leave the mafia. You know things. You know things that could get other people busted. And because of that, you never really leave the game. Would his life be in danger? Were deals made that we couldn't even fathom? Did he have to sell his soul in order to get the kind of protection that he would need for the rest of his life after what he was a part of down in South America? Oh, so many questions. And as Shawn Ryan grows and this information comes out, I think we have more questions than answers now at this point when it comes to a character like Shawn Ryan and how they are growing him rapidly. And then his connection to Blackwater and Eric Prince is very concerning. So what do you guys think? Escape and evade. He got out of there. But where are we at is kind of where I'm at, like on a timeline when you think about your faith. A lot of people here, I have a relationship with Jesus Christ to the best of my ability. I think of the world as filled with a lot of sin, and that's a large part of the reason, and then it's just greed at the top. And who knows what we're really dealing with, if we're dealing with human, augmented humans. You know, some people throw out the reptilians, whatever you think about any of that kind of stuff. Either way, it's greed, pride, control, and all these mechanisms in place. Where are we at on the scale of things as far as like being, it's tough. It's tough to think about because a lot of this stuff that juxtaposition is proposing is rattling in my brain. And, you know, the way that he sees it is there's really no country. When you owe as many billions or trillions, I should say, when you owe so much money that you are basically like that homeless drunk that has thrown away its life, you are, you know, you don't really, you're not in charge of especially your finances. And in this world, money is king. Currency is king. You have to have it in order to live. That's what they make it that way. It's tough to figure out how much time we have was what I'm trying to get at. The real ID, the digital currency, the cryptocurrency that's coming in, blockchain, the maneuvering of players that are going to do their bidding, like a Shawn Ryan in the alternative media that will become just as powerful, if not more powerful than the mainstream media could ever become, because it's all about social media influence these days. So they are building a beast in a way with this Shawn Ryan, and there's so much sketch. And when you start to find out about the Madison Marquettes, the Wanos Evans, some of these people, you find out most of them have a criminal background. They're almost all criminals. I have a small criminal background.
Interfering with a peace officer, misdemeanor. Last time I took a drink. If you didn't know, now you know.
But these people, I'm not in a position to be placed like a Shawn Ryan or anything like that. I would never even want it. But a lot of these people are freaking criminals, and it's sketchy as to whether or not they've actually atoned for what they've done. Can you atone for the potential of being the reason a lot of people were murdered and killed? It's a very dirty business, the drug game, especially down in South America. I mean, it is everywhere, but a lot of murders, a lot of deaths. He overdosed multiple times, so I, can sympathize with being a past addict and going through a lot of my own stuff. Well, and then, when I get in some discussions about giving your life to Christ and repentance and being saved and salvation and all that kind of stuff, my best friend likes to, well, we used to have those conversations. I kind of stay away from it now, but he used to say, oh, that was a cop out. You're just copping out. So just be able to say, oh, I'm forgiven, and feel better about all the things that you've done that have brought harm. What does it really mean to atone for something as severe as that? But then to also think of it in a way where maybe he's still kind of that guy being now utilized by nefarious forces, in my opinion, from what I can tell, in a guy like Eric Prince, Blackwater, CIA, and some of these agencies that are propping up a Shawn Ryan, which they're trying to make it in the Christian world look like he's atoned or repented or whatever you want to say and given his life to God. But there's a lot of questions. Like I said, with Gray Area Monarch talking about the helmet and the ways that he's been, he's completely controlled and therefore controlled opposition. And now he's making another leap out of the smaller Sandbox into the even bigger one. Much to discuss. Anyways, I'll see you guys down in the comments. Hopefully this came across all right. And yeah, I hope you all are doing well. And God bless, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.